and welcome to another episode of The Diplomats, brought to you by diplomacybriefing.com, where we are following closely the Nexus Season 7 finals. I'm Wardy, and I'm joined, as ever, by Mr. Eric Grinnell. How are you doing, Eric? What shirt is it this time we've got? You've got a crazy shirt rather than crazy glasses.
This is one of my tactical shirts. It's digital camouflage. We quit using digital camouflage about 8 years ago, but civilians do use crap whenever. It's meant for desert environments. You'd use this out in the American West, like Utah, Nevada. There's areas in Asia where this would be very effective. The red is supposed to break up your visual pattern when you're in a clay environment. So
it'd be apt for you to be convoyed to North Africa on this board.
No. That would be a different pattern. I'll wear that next time.
I look forward to it.
This should be really good for an attack on Petra. So you can convoy me to Jordan, okay?
I want to attack Petra. It's too beautiful. But although I've never been, I need to go. Right.
Beauty is in the eye of the controller.
The game has reached spring 06. Well, fall 06 actually, but we're having a look at spring here. Fall is due to adjudicate in a few hours' time as we record, and there's been a lot of movement this turn. What jumps out at you first, Eric?
What jumps out at me first is my inadequacy and my inferiority, and B, Ed's true genius. What went on here in this set of moves was something that should have been obvious to me that I didn't talk about. I've been talking about how Ed has been giving the game away. I'm going to have to reevaluate my assessment, and we will get to that. But, all through my commentary of this game, all I have really revealed is that I am not as much of a genius as I think I am. These guys continually outplay me. My game prediction game has never been on the mark. I've always been a step behind. There's some things I see coming, and there's others that I just don't catch on to. What Ed did here, this alliance that he's got set up with John, is pure genius. It's genius. I said last turn, congratulations, John, you're not going to be eliminated. But he's not only going to be eliminated, he's allied with the board leader, and he's not going to top this board, but he's going to have a good result. There's the old diplomacy saying, one away enemy, two away friend. I should have known that Germany and Turkey were going to end up allied with each other. And if anyone had asked me, hey, by the end game, are Germany and Turkey going to be allied? I would have said yes. As a matter of fact, last season we talked about it, and I talked about how it may take Germany and Russia and Turkey to contain Italy. So that contained a sliver of the wisdom of Germany and Turkey are going to end up allied. But you get too distracted, you deal with too many moving parts. We're not really in the game, we're not of the game, so we don't have the right feel for it. I should have been able to see Ed and John cooperating and being allies, eliminating Russia, and just slamming the brakes on Italy. And I didn't see that coming. I'll tell you who did see it coming. Greg saw it coming. Look at his moves. He knew it was coming, and Greg's in the process of making a krill sandwich. So,
let's talk about John, because I wonder whether perhaps this opportunity was hidden slightly because he looked in a tight spot. You pointed out that really Turkey needs Bulgaria. He needs to have an army in Sevastopol rather than a fleet. And
they took care of that right here.
Yeah, well, and even with Fleet Marseille, we discussed the likelihood of that going to Spain and Italy not pulling fleets back off off the Turkish front, and yet look at all this. So yeah, Germany has found a use for Turkey, presumably to give
let me say this
Italy
first. Let me say this first.
competition over the Balkans.
I'm very, very happy. I've been down on John all game. I've been critical of the Turkish play all game. And I stated repeatedly, I want to say something nice. I can't. Well, guess what? I can finally say something nice. I can finally say something nice. John, you won the contest of that real delicate balancing act of making yourself valuable to the board leader and keeping yourself in the game and through to the end game. There is nothing wrong at all with coming in fourth in the Nexus finals. It's better than I did. And that's what John's going to get out of this. He's going to get fourth place in the, he might even get third place. If Germany and France and Turkey all decide that they want to spend the remaining 4 years of this game gangpiling Matt Krill and not fighting each other, and this map indicates that there's a very distinct possibility of that. So John is going to get fourth or third place in this Nexus final. So John, you have more wisdom than me. You have more foresight than me. And you played a difficult position well. You didn't give up. You kept on slugging, and you're going to get your reward. You're going to get a good outcome out of this game. There is nothing wrong with coming in third in the Nexus finals, having played the quality of play that you played through to get here and through to the end of this game. Third is a respectable finish, and I'm happy you're doing well. And I'm not happy that I keep being wrong.
Well, let me ask this then, Eric. What you're not holding out much hope for John to top the board.
No,
what
absolutely
would
not.
it take? What would it take for him to have a genuine opportunity of like nicking this in the last phase?
He needs a time machine. It's not going to happen. You look at it. He when we get all these arrows out of the way and we just look at the fall position here in a few minutes, you'll see, okay, all right. With German assistance, I do not think that Matt Krill is going to be able to hold on to Rum or Bulgaria at this point, especially because he has to direct fleets west to deal with Greg. So you got Bulgaria, you got Romania. Moscow is no longer an option for Germany or for Turkey because that is a German dot now. Okay, so you're at 4, you're at 5, you're at 6. He could get to Greece, he could get to Serbia. So put him at 8. If Matt Krill decides to be vindictive and to turn around and throw dots to Turkey to Germany's detriment, maybe Budapest. I don't see in the 4 remaining game years that are in this game. I don't see John able to get into Trieste or Vienna. His absolute outside stretch is going to be Serbia, Budapest. So Budapest, Serbia, Greece, Bulgaria, Rum 7 home. That's 3, 4, 6. That's 9 dots. And he's not the only guy on the board. There's 34 dots on this board. There's going to be 4 players left in this game at the end of the game. Those 34 dots, when they get divided up, 8 is not going to be enough. 9 is not going to be enough to top this board. So no, John doesn't have the opportunity to come back. Although that doesn't mean he shouldn't quit trying. Okay, if you shoot for the stars and land on the moon, I just hope you land on the sun side because the other side's really, really cold. Okay.
Okay, so shall we? You mentioned Germany there and Ed's genius.
Yes.
Let's have a look at Germany's position then, because it was looking a little bit ropey, but maybe now that he's got some Yellow units on his side. Maybe it's not looking so bad.
No, it's not looking bad at all. I think the one real bad mistake that Ed made here was Norway to North, Barents to Norwegian. There was nothing else for Fleet's London and English Channel to do except for to do a supported attack on North. Ed didn't have the ability to bring 2 units to bear on North. He should have known he was going to lose North Sea. He should have used Norway to support Barents to Norwegian, because having Barents in Norwegian would give him more influence on what goes on in North moving forward. It would draw Mayo into Norwegian, thereby guaranteeing that Greg isn't going to have the units that he needs to make substantial progress against Matt Curl in the South in the last 4 years of the game and outpace him, because I don't see a lot going on here that's going to really give France or Germany an edge against each other in a major way. I think Greg has more ability to mess with Ed than Ed does to mess with Greg, because France is sitting in the North Sea. He's got the option of moving to Skagerrak. He's got the option to move into Helgoland Bight. And, you know, in addition to France having the option to move to those spaces, Greg has to make his tactical decisions with the possibility of those pernicious moves in the back of his head. And that's going to reduce his options. That's going to slow his tempo. At this point, it is very, very possible, almost likely, that Ed is going to get through this game having never taken a single dot from Greg. And that may be by design. These guys may still be getting Care Bears at the end of the game. You know, it's a little bit of a active Care Bear now. They're going to jockey. They're going to bounce units against each other. But are they going to make any progress against each other? Are they going to take any dots from each other? I'm not convinced of that. I'm not convinced that Greg.
So you don't think this move into North Sea is actively hostile? Well, maybe it is hostile, but it's not. They're not waging war.
It's a more efficient use of your pieces, because Eddie in London supporting North Hold, that's pretty much lockstep for the rest of the game. I mean, Ed can get a build and throw down another fleet and maybe pressure for it, maybe. But he's got to get that army that just moved into Kiel out of there first before he could drop a fleet there. If not, he's got to build that fleet in Berlin, which means that now you're looking at 1908 before you could even take North Sea. So taking North Sea was a good move for Greg, because it pretty much secures all of his holdings for the rest of the game.
Is there any chance that Norwegian and North Sea were both supposed to be 1 power bounces?
Oh, definitely a possibility. Definitely a possibility. Ed shouldn't have believed that lie, if that's the lie that was sold to him, because with the fleet in Brest to go to Mayo, there was nothing else the English Channel to do. What was it supposed to do? Go to Irish? No. English Sea in London, English Channel in London were always going to focus on North Sea. And if that got sold to Ed as a bounce, Ed got suckered a little bit. But we're seeing now on this board, we're seeing how deep his levels of deviousness go, and how far he planned ahead, and how he had every intention of coming into an alliance with Turkey and using that to shut the door on Italy. Ed's level of play here deserves a major, major compliment. He has done this masterfully. And when I assign grades in the fall, I haven't seen fall yet, but when I assign grades in the fall, I'm almost certain that Ed's going to be getting the A, and Ed's going to continue to get the A for the rest of the game. But so there is that.
Okay, let's have a look at these French moves southwards. Marseille to Lyon and Burgundy to Marseille.
Mm-hmm.
While there's a two power bounce in in Burgundy.
Yep.
Sort of saying
You'll
maybe
see it
Spain.
you'll see it in my predictions, and that's why Matt Krill is out of the running to top this board at this point. France is getting ready to convoy to Tuscany.
That would be a nice move.
So, and if Ed and Greg are content to bounce with each other and not make any particular progress against each other in the West and the North, and Mayo is going to come down to the Southern Theater. Those two fleets in combination with that convoy to Tuscany, that's the end of Matt Krill as contender for board leader.
You're right. You're ready to write him off.
Well, you've seen me all game. I'm always ready to write people off, and I'm frequently wrong. However, if France puts two fleets in the Med and convoys to Tuscany, I'm comfortable saying that Krill will be uniquely challenged to deal with that confrontation and still, especially in the face of a German-Turkish coalition, have any opportunity whatsoever to top this board. I don't see it.
What then would Matt Krill need to do to get back into it? What should be his response here?
Well, I tell you, and lesson for players who are trying to or watching this video, trying to learn the game. I paid attention to the views, and I know there's literally tens of you watching, so you're trying to learn. Okay, all right. When you look at the map and you've got the dots in the old position and you're looking at arrows, sometimes this map is the exact same map as the one you're going to look at in here in 2 seconds when Wardy advances it to follow 6. But your brain processes this data completely differently. All right. So you're asking, what does Matt Krill need to do now? Well, Matt Krill needs to do 4 things. Okay. Matt Krill needs to defend Vienna, defend Romania, defend Bulgaria, and take Budapest. And those are the 4 things that he needs to do in the East. All right. In addition, he also needs to bring units back to respond to Greg's advance against him. Greg had jump back to Spring 06. Greg had an opportunity here. Greg had the opportunity to move that fleet Marseille to Spain to continue his neutrality with Italy and to bring units to bear to push back Ed. He clearly has chosen not to do that. Whatever agreement Greg and Ed had that they weren't going to directly engage each other, directly attack each other, go after each other's dots, to try and challenge each other directly for supremacy of this board, is being kept. And I talked all game about the importance of Matt and how he was going to be the balance. Well, that role has just been taken away from him. Okay. Matt, who was previously facing no enemies at all, really, now has 3 enemies. 3 enemies. Okay. And it's very, very different. And Greg had the opportunity to use his units against Ed and to leave Matt to fight them in the East. He chose not to do that. I think that was a simple calculation of this is going to be a long, hard fight against Germany in the West and the North, and there's only 4 game years left. I think I can make more progress if I go south against Italy. There are more dots readily able to be grabbed. And that's true. But I also think that his ability to, because if France caves in Italy's back door in the West, he's going to be collapsing everywhere else as well. And Germany now has, if you include Moscow, now has 5 armies in that Eastern theater. So he will pick up dots in the East as Matt falls apart, facing the onslaught of all three players. So the dots that Greg gets are not going to help him outpace Ed, because Ed is going to continue to grow as well. If this was not a time-limited game, I would be talking about the inevitability of a German solo, because he has 5 armies across the stalemate line. So, you know, maybe Greg's won enough of these Nexus finals. Maybe he doesn't want it that bad. But he's given up a real serious avenue to a possible victory by not confronting Ed and not challenging him for Holland, for Munich, for Norway. I think it's very hard for Greg to win this board without challenging Ed for Holland, Munich, and Norway. I think it's very difficult.
Just back to Italy, just for a moment.
Yes.
You said that his position as being the balance has gone.
It's gone.
But he can still. He's still got diplomatic leverage, because he could throw.
Yes,
one way or the other.
I was formulating that as you were talking. I didn't know that's where you were going. You are entirely correct. Matt Krill's remaining lever on this game is, I am going to throw dots. And in this scenario, looking at this board, if he had to choose between, okay, I don't think Matt will actively throw dots. He will just prioritize his defense. And the end result of the way he prioritizes his defense will be to give up on defending dots. Okay? And I think it's kind of 50-50, all right? On an emotional level, I think he would be more predisposed here to, France has done me more wrong than Germany. I have more justification for umbrage at France's actions than I do of Germany's. However, because of the positioning of his armies, Matt has more ability to confront Ed than he does Greg. All right. And if this were me, I would use my fleets to do what I could to lose ground in the West as slowly as possible while trying to hold my position in the East. But because these players play at a level that I lack the capacity to play at, they're going to deal on the diplomatic side. And I think, having assessed it in that way, I think Krill is going to focus more on defending against France and give Germany more free reign in the East. And I think it's going to work to Ed's benefit. But like I said, in the East, Matt has to do 4 things. He's got to defend Vienna, defend Romania, defend Bulgaria, take Budapest. In the West, he's got to bring an army back into Piedmont and bring fleets back to keep French fleets off of his coast. Italy has 6 strategic goals that he must pursue in service of his own health and survival. 6 things that he must do with 8 units. That's a hard row to hoe.
At least, yeah, some of those provinces you mentioned are adjacent to one another. But given that,
let's go back to the false line.
Well, given that, as you've said, it's going to be difficult for Greg to take dots from Italy without Germany doing equally well, or if not better. Is the right play for Greg here to say, sorry about that. Let's work together against Germany, which is
well, he should definitely
so much
say
a pitch that Germany can make.
He should definitely say that, whether he means it or not. You understand? That is the right thing to say here. Will Greg order his units that way or not? I don't know. But diplomacy players love those crippling moves. They love those clever moves. They love those powerful moves. I don't think that Greg is going to be able to resist the cuteness and the display of his genius that would happen if he convoyed Marseille to Tuscany.
Can I bring up your prediction slide at this point?
I'll bet you another quid. Yes. All right.
This is what you are suggesting might well happen.
Might well happen, yes. Might well happen. Moscow is definitely going to go down. Spencer is definitely going to lose his last dot. Next time we play, I will be wearing the death glasses for Spencer. Okay. All right. There are other things that I'm very certain are going to happen, or at least they should. We're going to continue to see a bounce in Norwegian, and by putting 2 on North, it really limits Greg's ability to move fleets around. We talked about the possibility of moving to Skagerrak, moving to Helgoland. He could still move to Skagerrak or move to Helgoland and then support himself in the North Sea for a bounce. But if Greg does that, he's giving up Norwegian Sea. Greg cannot afford to give up Norwegian Sea and said Mayo South. And I think he's obviously committed himself to a southern front. With that move to Lyon and move to Marseille, he committed himself to a southern front. He definitely committed himself to a southern front more profoundly than in any way he's ever committed himself to a front against Ed. So yes, I think Mayo is going to go south. And if Mayo is going to go south, Greg cannot possibly afford to let Ed into Norwegian Sea. If he goes north and lets Ed into Norwegian Sea, it's a real disaster. It's a real disaster. Ed could also cut North Sea and then use Norway to support Barents Norwegian. I don't have this in this prediction slide. And the reason that I don't have this in this prediction slide is I've had to reassess. I'm not at all convinced that Greg and Ed want to fight each other at all. I think they're still care bearing each other. The game has just progressed far enough that now they need to care bear each other with a little bit of teeth so that they keep each other honest. And my forecast here is relying on that. That London to Holland is a pointless order, and people should ignore it because I don't have North Sea convoying London to Holland. I have North Sea supporting Eddie to Norwegian. With Denmark cutting North Sea, 1 unit on Holland should be enough. They may both put 2 on Holland. Once again, I didn't put that in this prediction because I don't think they're truly interested in engaging each other. I think what they're truly interested in is carving up Matt Krill. And that's what these orders reflect. I do definitely predict that convoy to Tuscany for sure. If I am correct that Germany and France are just going to bounce each other around, I think Munich to Bohemia is another very likely move. Why not dump 1 more unit across the stalemate line into that southern theater? Because if Ed can take Vienna, retake Budapest, take Trieste, take Serbia, take Romania, I don't think anyone could beat him in this game. My prediction has Ed taking Romania. There is some question there of, well, why would John be okay with that? Why would John let Ed take Romania when Romania should be a Turkish dot? It comes to what I've talked about previously in earlier episodes. I don't think John has any illusion of playing for position on this board, playing for finishing well. I don't think Ed has to promise him dots or growth. All Ed has to promise John is the opportunity for revenge. Ed never betrayed John. John had a goal. It was Russia. That goal is accomplished. Russia's dead. Russia's dead. So what's John's next goal? What does John go looking for next for a sense of satisfaction out of this game? It's a ridiculously uphill climb to try and get back in the fight for top of this board, and he probably recognizes that. So he's going to look for an intellectually more direct path to emotional satisfaction. He stabbed him. Matt Curl stabbed John, and Ed will keep John's loyalty for the rest of this game by promising John revenge against Matt Crow.
So that's often a good
So
motivation.
with that in mind, Ed doesn't have to give Romania to John.
Does Ed not, would Ed not prefer John to be in Romania though, and he can take Sevastopol? Whereas he wants as many friendly armies on that front as possible without anybody.
I would hope that John wouldn't let Ed into Sevastopol, because if Ed is into Sevastopol, then he can order Sev to Armenia, and then John collapses. I would hope John wouldn't let Ed into Armenia, but when you get to a certain point in the game and you intellectually you embrace your inner effort, maybe he does. But do you want John in Romania? That's not the question. The question is, you want an army in Romania. Whether it's Turkish or German doesn't matter that much. You want the army in Romania. And you can put your own army in Romania. And that's what I've written into these orders. I've got Budapest cut in Serbia to guarantee that he takes Romania. Although technically what I've written isn't a guarantee, because Vienna could just cut Galicia. That's an unlikely set of moves. There are 4 or 5 different ways that Vienna, Budapest, Serbia, Galicia, Romania could go. I guess Vienna, Trieste, Budapest, Serbia, Romania, and Bulgaria could go. I have no certainty of how it's going to go. How it goes will be solely dependent on the conversations between the parties, and we're not privy to that.
Is there any chance of Sev to Bull here? Would that accomplish much?
It's not a guaranteed move.
Because
and there's a real problem with that. If you're going to send a Bull with a convoy, then you're moving out of Sev, and you're using black, the only available unit to backfill Sev and keep it in Turkish hands, as part of the convoy. If Turkey tried this convoy to Bulgaria and was successful, then you'd be looking at Moscow retreating to Sev. I don't see that happening. No, I don't see that happening at all. You're getting to the point in the game where you really want to reduce out of the game the variables that you don't have the ability to influence. And that variable has a name, and that variable's name is Spencer, and he's gone.
Yeah, and you're talking about actually the Armenia backdoor. He definitely would be taking advantage and going there, wouldn't he?
Yeah, well, I mean, he's going to have to go somewhere, because he's going to turn around and get dislodged out of Sev, so he's going to have to retreat somewhere. So, reality is he wouldn't get to retreat to Armenia because John would have to cover it, right? But covering Armenia to make sure that a retreating Russian army didn't get there would cost him all his momentum in Bulgaria, Romania. But I think this is okay. I think that John will be okay with letting Ed into Romania, because once that Spencer army is gone, now that convoy to Bulgaria makes sense. So if you put Ed in Romania, and you're in Khan, and you're in Black, and you're in Sev, that convoy to Bulgaria could very easily happen next year. And I think everyone realizes Bulgaria is practically a Turkish home center. Bulgaria is practically a Turkish home center. Bulgaria is practically a Turkish home center. Serbia is practically an Austrian home center. Holland is practically a German home center. There are these truths throughout the game. So one of the reasons that John may be okay with putting Ed into Romania is Ed is probably promising John, and then I'm going to help you retake Bulgaria.
Okay, interesting.
So,
So
but keep in mind the move set that I predicted here. The move set that I predicted here has John taking Bulgaria right now. Aegean is cut. Serbia is cut. Romania is cut. Everything is cut. The only thing that keeps Bulgaria in Italian hands, if these other orders happen the way I've described, is Aegean to Khan, rum to bull. So, and Matt's a very intelligent player. He may see that coming, and that may be exactly what he does. I'd say the odds that Bulgaria ends up in Turkish hands at the end of this game, or at the end of this turn, is somewhere more than 50-50, but south of 75%. I think Turkey will get Bulgaria back right here. Ed will get Romania, and Spencer will be gone.
if Matt does end up building 2,
There'll be fleets.
would you be happier with his victory chances again?
If France convoys to Tuscany, absolutely not. Absolutely not. 2 builds is not going to save Matt Krill here. If France, no. And by the way, I kind of jumped the gun there. When you said if Matt Krill gets 2 builds, and I said 2 fleets, if France convoys to Tuscany, then Matt's going to have to build an army and a fleet. Or he could be very vindictive. He could build 2 armies and tell France, you aren't getting crap. Germany just won this game.
Yeah, your win isn't over here. Look in the north.
Yeah, your game's over. So we'll know a lot. We'll know a lot.
No, it's all looking up, Edwin.
But yeah, in broad strokes here, whether I'm right tactically about each and every one of these moves, in broad strokes, Greg and Ed are going to continue to not actually engage each other. They'll do some mild force to keep each other honest. Greg is going to continue to head east. I always do that. Greg is going to continue to head east against the Italian, and Greg and Turkey are going to work together to contain Italy and take out Turkey, or take out Russia. And once Russia is gone, there are so many free units on this board that can be reassigned to other tasks. Matt's not going to have a comfortable last 3-4 years of this game. He's not. It's unfortunate.
This could become less chaotic, right? Because we've had 2 eliminations already, and it looks like there's another one to follow.
The last one of this game, by the way. The last one of this game.
That's fewer variables and allows the game to the board to lock up that more quickly. Is that a fair assessment?
The fewer the variables, the fewer real tactical options there are. Okay, at least tactical options that make any sense. And the more this game will just become about diplomacy and negotiating an end game, which is rather ironic because I spent 10 minutes raging against that last show. So, but yeah, at this point, Matt Krill is more likely to get eliminated from this board than John is.
Okay. We have spoken about this relationship between Russia and Turkey, which has been raging all game, and this does come up here. Bradley Grace, I want to turn. Everyone is rightfully going to talk about the 3 favorites, but I'd be willing to put some money on a Turkey win if the odds were good enough. Maybe not a quiz.
Grayson, the game ends in 1910. Do better math.
John Anderson, Tarsia, now that we have disbanded that rum fleet, we can finally get you that army build you need to defend against Germany. And that is Tarsia's reaction, the thumbs down. And that is off the board now. That's so. But I think Russia's going to be off the board in a second.
I am eager to talk to both Spencer and John. I think that their political back and forth, their diplomatic back and forth, might have actually been one of the more interesting and entertaining courses of event that occurred in this game. I think John and Spencer had a lot of fun beating the hell out of each other. They're not going to have anything to show for it, but they had fun.
And it's all in good humor by the looks of it. And Mind Dodge says, no, Russia. Strange that Germany is keeping them alive there. I don't think that's going to last. I think that was a spring thing.
I don't Mind Dodge. I've never met you. I don't know you. I'd like to meet you in person. Text me on Discord so we can meet each other. No, I don't think that what Germany is doing is keeping Russia alive. I think that's an incorrect assessment of the board. I don't think you're reading the map properly.
Oh, he's back. He's back, ladies and gentlemen. He is back. Any final thoughts before we finish up?
Yeah, these guys are better than me, and they're smarter than me, and they make me look really, really foolish.
Well, we'll see how close you are. It's been great chatting with you once again, and thank you very much indeed, everyone watching, for joining us.
Cheers.
See you soon.